Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. The hardest thing in life is knowing which bridge to cross and which to burn. This isn't just a quote, it's a way of life for Sigma females. In a world obsessed with love stories and happy endings, they're the ones standing on the edge of the bridge, torch in hand, saying, maybe I'll just build my own. Here's a fact to chew on. Over 50% of people in relationships admit they've settled at some point. But Sigma females, they'd rather wrestle a bear than settle for mediocrity. It's not that they hate relationships. It's just that most people's version of love feels like a bad reality show. Predictable, overhyped, and full of unnecessary drama. So why do they avoid relationships? Is it fear, pride, or something deeper? The truth is far more intriguing and brutally honest than you might expect. Buckle up, because we're diving into the real reasons Sigma females swipe left on relationships, and trust me, it's not because they're too picky. Let's just say their standards aren't high. They're specific, and that's a whole different game. Number one, they're intimidating without trying. Sigma females are the embodiment of quiet power. They don't need to shout their worth or seek validation. They just exist in their natural, confident state. And that alone can be intimidating. Their independence, intellect, and self-assured nature send a clear message. They know who they are and don't need anyone else to define them. For some, that's refreshing, but for many, it's downright terrifying. Potential partners often approach them with a mix of awe and uncertainty. Some see them as a challenge, thinking they need to prove themselves worthy, only to realize that Sigma females aren't playing games or looking for someone to chase them. Others quickly decide it's too much work to keep up with someone so self-reliant and capable. Either way, the effect is the same. Many people quietly opt out, not because the Sigma female isn't desirable, but because they feel inadequate in her presence. What makes this even more potent is that Sigma females don't try to be intimidating. It just happens. They're not throwing their accomplishments in anyone's face or going out of their way to assert dominance. They're simply living life on their terms, and that authenticity naturally sets them apart. They won't downplay their intelligence or soften their ambition just to make someone else feel more secure. Their light isn't dimmable, and anyone who feels overshadowed by it is free to walk away. This dynamic inevitably thins the dating pool, but Sigma females don't see that as a loss. In fact, it's a filter. Those who can't handle their strength aren't the right fit anyway. Sigma females would rather wait for someone who appreciates their shine than waste time shrinking themselves for someone who can't handle the glow. Number two, the drama of relationships isn't worth their peace. For Sigma females, peace isn't just a preference, it's a necessity. While some people thrive on the push and pull of modern relationships, with their cryptic texts, passive-aggressive comments, and constant social media posturing, Sigma females want no part of it. To them, all that drama is like a bad reality show, exhausting, repetitive, and ultimately pointless. They've seen how easily relationships can devolve into a whirlwind of unnecessary chaos, fueled by insecurity, miscommunication, and an unhealthy dose of ego. Whether it's decoding mixed signals, navigating jealousy, or dealing with petty arguments that spiral out of control, none of it appeals to a Sigma female. She's not interested in playing emotional chess or spending her energy on someone who doesn't know how to communicate like an adult. This isn't about being cold or detached, it's about prioritizing their well-being. Sigma females value their peace of mind more than fleeting romantic highs. They'd rather spend their nights reading, working on their goals, or simply enjoying their solitude than lying awake dissecting someone's confusing behavior or wondering why their partner suddenly went silent. Even when there's undeniable chemistry, if the relationship brings more stress than joy, it's simply not worth it. Sigma females know that drama can be addictive, but they refuse to fall into that trap. They're fully aware that a peaceful, fulfilling life can never coexist with constant turmoil. If a potential partner can't approach the relationship with maturity, stability, and open communication, they'll quickly find themselves on the outside looking in. Sigma females aren't willing to sacrifice their tranquility for anyone, no matter how great the connection might seem on paper. In their world, peace isn't just a bonus, it's the baseline. Number three, They know their time is their most valuable asset. Sigma females treat their time like it's gold because to them, it is. They're acutely aware that every second spent on the wrong person or the wrong situation is a second they'll never get back. It's not just about being selective. It's about understanding that time is the one resource no one can replenish. This mindset makes them fiercely intentional about who they let into their lives and, more importantly, who gets to stay. They won't entertain relationships that drain them emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. A partner who's inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or clearly headed nowhere, that's a hard pass. Sigma females have no interest in being someone's emotional crutch, babysitter, or placeholder while they figure out their own issues. They've worked too hard to build a fulfilling life to let anyone drag them down. Some might see this as selfish, but for Sigma females, it's simply self-preservation. They've learned that giving their time to people who don't value it is the fastest way to lose themselves. Every choice they make is rooted in a deep respect for their own goals, happiness, and purpose. They're not afraid to walk away from relationships that don't align with their vision, no matter how much it stings in the moment. For them, love isn't about quantity, it's about quality. They'd rather spend their time alone, doing things that enrich their lives, than invest in a relationship that feels more like an obligation than a joy. If someone wants to be in their life, they need to bring something meaningful to the table. Otherwise, the Sigma female will simply move on, unapologetically guarding her most precious asset, her time. Number 4, they're not impressed by flashy gestures. Sigma females have no time for the over-the-top theatrics of modern romance. Big, flashy gestures might make for a good Instagram story, but to them, they're all smoke and mirrors. A dozen roses, a fancy dinner, or an elaborate proposal planned to perfection. It might work on someone else, but a Sigma female sees through the act. They know that grand displays often mask shallow intentions, and they're far more interested in what's behind the performance. To a Sigma, authenticity trumps extravagance every single time. They'd rather have a real conversation over coffee than be swept off their feet by some rehearsed speech meant to impress. Sweet-talking, overused compliments, and well-practiced charm don't hold any weight if they can't see the substance underneath. They can sense when someone's trying too hard, and instead of feeling flattered, they feel insulted. Why? Because they value honesty and effort that isn't rooted in attention-seeking or ego-stroking. If someone thinks a Sigma female can be won over with material things or dramatic stunts, they've already failed. Sigma females don't need to be dazzled, they need to be understood. Genuine gestures like a thoughtful question, a quiet moment of vulnerability, or a willingness to listen mean far more to them than a parade of superficial romance. For Sigma females, relationships are about depth, not spectacle. Flashy displays of affection might attract a crowd, but they don't build trust, connection, or mutual respect. And if someone's love language is performance, they'll quickly learn that the Sigma female isn't clapping. She's too busy looking for the real thing, and she won't settle for anything less. Number 5, they're too self-aware to settle. Sigma females operate on a level of self-awareness that most people can only dream of. They know who they are, what they want, and most importantly, what they don't want. This clarity doesn't just guide their choices, it defines their entire approach to relationships. While many people dive headfirst into romance, hoping to figure it out along the way, Sigmas have already done the hard work of figuring themselves out first. They're not here to experiment with love. They're here to enhance their already full life, and that's a rare standard. This deep self-awareness means they don't fall for the usual traps. They won't date someone just because they're lonely, or because society insists it's time to settle down. They've seen how that plays out. People compromising on fundamental values, tolerating disrespect, or pretending to be someone they're not just to keep the peace. Sigma females don't have the patience for that. They'd rather face the occasional pang of solitude than waste their time in a relationship that doesn't align with who they are at their core. Their refusal to settle isn't about arrogance. It's about respect for themselves and for the life they've built. They know their worth, and they refuse to entertain anything less than a relationship that adds value without taking away their sense of self. This mindset makes them incredibly selective, which some might misinterpret as being too picky. But for Sigmas, it's not about being hard to please. It's about recognizing that a truly fulfilling partnership is rare and requires more than just chemistry or convenience. If someone doesn't meet their emotional, intellectual, and spiritual standards, they won't force it. They'll walk away unapologetically, not because they're cold, but because they've learned that the wrong relationship costs far more than being alone ever could. Number 6. They can't unsee red flags. Others ignore. Sigma females don't just notice red flags, they analyze them with the precision of a detective uncovering a crime scene. While most people are busy getting swept away by charm, good looks, or a smooth line, Sigma females are decoding the micro behaviors that reveal who someone truly is. A seemingly harmless joke that feels a little too sharp. They'll catch the insecurity hiding behind it. An over-the-top compliment that feels rehearsed. They'll see it as a red light screaming manipulation ahead. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Sigma females have been through enough to know that people often wear masks, and they refuse to fall for appearances. They've mastered the art of paying attention to what isn't said, the subtle pauses, the inconsistencies, and the hidden motives. It's not about being critical for the sake of it, it's about protecting themselves from unnecessary heartbreak. This hyper-awareness isn't something they can turn off. They don't just walk into relationships blindly hoping for the best. They dissect intentions, question motives, and evaluate every move, not because they're cynical, but because they value their time and emotions too much to waste them on someone who doesn't measure up. Most people won't even realize they've been scanned and quietly disqualified, because a Sigma female won't waste her energy explaining why you didn't pass the vibe check. While some might call it overthinking, for Sigma females, it's survival. They're not interested in potential or what could be. They focus on what is, and if someone's reality doesn't align with their standards, they'll walk away without hesitation. It's not cold, it's clarity. And in a world full of emotional fog, that clarity is their greatest weapon. Number 7. They don't believe in half-love. For Sigma females, love isn't a half-baked experiment or a shallow distraction. It's a meaningful, all-in commitment. Casual relationships don't appeal to them because they don't see the point of investing their time or energy into something that isn't built on depth, trust, and genuine connection. To them, relationships that don't have a solid foundation feel like dressing up in costumes, trying to play roles without truly understanding or connecting with the other person. Sigma females value substance over surface-level sparks. They're not interested in vague feelings or trying to see where it goes, because they know that kind of uncertainty rarely leads anywhere worthwhile. If someone isn't ready to build something real, something rooted in mutual respect, communication, and authenticity, they won't waste a single minute. Casual encounters that revolve around nothing more than attraction or momentary fun aren't their thing. They want more than a quick fix. They want something that challenges them, makes them grow, and contributes to their life in meaningful ways. For them, love is not a game. It's not about playing it cool or seeing how long they can hold someone's attention. It's about finding someone who values the same kind of deep connection, where both people are fully present and willing to invest. If someone isn't on the same page, it's a quick exit. Sigma females aren't afraid to walk away from relationships that don't align with their values or expectations because they know that half-love is a waste of time. They won't settle for anything less than real, whole love, and that's exactly what they'll hold out for. If a connection isn't genuine, it's a no-go, plain and simple. Number 8. They've outgrown the fantasy of romance. Sigma females have long outgrown the glossy fantasy of fairy tale romance. They don't buy into the idea that a perfect partner will swoop in, solve all their problems, and complete them. That illusion belongs in movies, not real life, and they know it. Having seen enough of the messy realities of relationships where charm fades and compatibility is tested, they've chosen to prioritize authenticity over fantasy. This doesn't mean they've given up on love. Far from it. They simply refuse to romanticize people or situations that don't deserve it. They've learned that real love isn't about grandiose promises or endless butterflies. It's about mutual respect, emotional stability, and shared growth. And if someone isn't bringing that to the table, no amount of sweet words or fleeting passion will make up for it. Sigma females also recognize that the idea of completion in a relationship is a myth. They don't need anyone to fill a void or make their life whole. They've already done that for themselves. They've built their own happiness and aren't willing to jeopardize it for someone who's still living in a romantic fantasy. They've grown beyond the fairy tale mindset where love conquers all. They know that without trust, communication, and effort, even the strongest feelings will crumble under the weight of reality. They're not looking for a prince or a savior. They're looking for a partner who's willing to meet them where they are, grounded, realistic, and committed to building something meaningful. This mature perspective makes them immune to romantic gimmicks or shallow connections. They see relationships for what they truly are, a choice, not a necessity. And if that choice doesn't align with their values or vision for the future, they have no problem walking away. Number 9. They won't play into traditional gender roles. Sigma females operate on a level of independence that renders traditional gender roles irrelevant. In a society where women are often expected to be nurturing, submissive, or emotionally available at all times, Sigma females don't play along. They reject the idea that their worth in a relationship should be defined by old-school expectations. They've already mastered the art of self-sufficiency and aren't looking for someone to complete them or fulfill an outdated stereotype. They know that relationships are about partnership, not power dynamics. While many women are expected to fall into the role of caregiver or emotional support, Sigma females have no interest in carrying that burden unless it's mutual. They won't play the role of the perfect partner to prop up anyone else's self-image, especially if it means compromising their own identity in the process. They believe in equal respect, equal effort, and a balance of strengths, because that's what it takes to build a true partnership. Sigma females don't need to act demure or hide their intelligence, ambition, or strength to fit into a box someone else created. If a partner is intimidated by their success, independence, or leadership, that's their problem, not the Sigma females. She refuses to shrink herself to make someone feel more comfortable or to cater to a man's fragile ego. She's not here to perpetuate the idea that women must be gentle or submissive to be desirable. Sigma females know their worth doesn't rely on conforming to those expectations. If someone wants to be with them, they need to meet them on equal ground, where both partners are free to be their authentic selves. Otherwise, the Sigma female will walk away without a second thought. Number 10. Independence feels too good to compromise. For a Sigma female, independence isn't just a lifestyle, it's a lifeline. It's the freedom to make decisions without permission, to create a life that revolves around their values, and to wake up every day knowing they answer to no one but themselves. Relationships, on the other hand, often come with strings, tiny compromises that eventually weave into a net, restricting their ability to live fully on their own terms. And for a Sigma, that's non-negotiable. The truth is, they've built a life so fulfilling on their own that adding someone else to the mix feels like walking into a carefully curated space with muddy shoes. It's not that they can't handle love or partnership. It's that most people come with expectations that clash with their autonomy. Constant check-ins, shared calendars, and those endless "what's wrong" conversations when they're simply enjoying their solitude. These things feel like unnecessary obligations, not meaningful connections. Sigma females don't just fear losing their independence. They know relationships often demand it. Even well-meaning partners can unintentionally encroach on their freedom with endless compromises and subtle demands for attention. And let's face it, they've seen too many people trade their independence for a relationship, only to regret it later when their own identity gets swallowed up in the process. To a Sigma, the idea of sacrificing their independence for companionship feels like a raw deal. Why give up a life of complete control for something that may or may not enhance it? They're not afraid of being alone, they thrive in it. For them, independence isn't just a preference, it's the foundation. In the end, Sigma females aren't just rejecting the traditional expectations of relationships, They're creating their own blueprint for what love and connection should look like. They've mastered the art of self-respect, independence, and emotional intelligence, and they refuse to settle for anything that doesn't align with those values. They won't waste their time on shallow connections or dramatic power struggles, and they certainly won't dim their light to fit someone else's vision of who they should be. They know their worth, and it's not tied to validation from anyone. They're not chasing after love. Instead, they're attracting it through authenticity, self-sufficiency, and a commitment to their own happiness and peace. For them, love is about mutual respect, depth, and an equal partnership, not a fantasy or a role to be played. So if you're lucky enough to be in the orbit of a Sigma female, understand that she's not here to be a supporting character in someone else's story. She's writing her own narrative, and anyone who wants to join her has to show up with the same level of authenticity and commitment. For Sigma females, real love is about finding someone who can keep up with their pace, match their intellectual and emotional depth, and honor their individuality. And if that person doesn't exist yet, they're content walking their own path, knowing they don't need anyone to complete them. They've already got it all figured out. If you've made it this far, you know that the Sigma female way of life isn't just unique, it's extraordinary. So if you're ready for more unapologetic truths, real insights, and a deeper dive into the world of Sigma females, hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's keep this conversation going, because being part of this community means embracing your true self and breaking free from the ordinary. Hit subscribe and let's continue to elevate the conversation together. Thanks for watching, Jules. See you in the next video. Bye for now and stay blessed.